Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Wolves of Shadowed Fate. Episode 31. Chapter 164 to 168. Raven's POV. The next day, I got a phone call from Reagan. She was panicked and speaking quickly into the phone. I could hear the fear in her voice and she was almost hysterical. I was trying to piece together what she was saying, but she wasn't making any sense to me. I had to ask her to hand the phone over to Clive. He was much calmer, but I see what the problem is pretty quickly. I had no idea that things would be changing quite this fast. I should have realized that Blake would want to kill Graham over what happened. Apparently, Blake speaks to Aaron every day. Things had not been going well at Black Moon for a while now because Blake was coming here to visit Cheryl 2 to 3 times a week. Blake had been suspicious of a few things changing at Black Moon for a few months now, things that he didn't authorize. He knew he was being undermined, but he didn't know who was behind it just yet. Aaron had told Reagan that Blake had been trying to draw them out but had not found out who the culprit was yet. The person he suspected most, could not have done it as he had been in the cells. Now Aaron knows that Blake had been right all along. Graham had been the one doing it. Blake just couldn't figure out how he could be getting into his office. Graham was supposed to be locked up, so he had to be having a great deal of help. They were trying to figure out how to take the bank account back over. But Blake had changed the password again. He knew he would be demoting both Mark and Garrett and didn't want them hijacking the account back from him. Mark knew what the original username and passcode were, so Blake changed them so only he and Reagan knew how to log into the account. Blake and Reagan have now run it for over a year now with no problems or issues. Today Reagan got a call from Robert. He was scared as Blake was locked up, and Forrest was picking on him. Cheryl had told him to use the landline in the kitchen and call Reagan if an emergency ever came up. He told her that Forrest had taken over the pack with Graham and that Forrest was mad with power. Robert was scared and wanted out, but didn't have a cell phone to call Cheryl with. I could see the emergency. I had no idea that they were going to implement this so quickly. I wondered how long they had been coming up with it. I hate that Graham was free, but we knew it was coming after the goddess came to me in my dream. I am worried about Reagan too. I knew that she and Blake were running the banking account that belonged to Graham. I am sure that Blake will be keeping his mouth shut for as long as he could. They needed to get their hands on the money and we needed to get there quickly to get Robert out. We needed Nadia to get him out of there, and I mind link Cheryl to come down to Brandon's office with Anton as soon as they could get there. I never called her to the office like this, and she would know that it is an emergency. I grabbed Justin and we headed there now. I had Ginger my assistant with my younger children. I knew we were going to have to head out fast. I had told Clive to give us about 20 minutes to get on the road and that I would call them back to give them the information on what we were going to do to get Robert out of Black Moon. Brandon and Justin already had a team together who were going to go ahead and get the weapons that we needed to protect ourselves from the gate guards at Black Moon. Reagan had told Robert to just act normally, but most ignored him anyway, as he was the least known of all their children. Forrest was the soon-to-be alpha, and Casey was the daughter, and they were both well known. Kevin was only known for being the bastard child, but Robert was not really known at all. She told him to find another landline at 6 p.m. and to call her back to be given instructions on what to do. She said to just go down and eat like normal, to not change his pattern, and then find a phone that was not in view of anyone to make the next call. I was glad that Cheryl had given him Reagan's number. I wish we could just go get him right now. I know that he has to be terrified by what has happened. We heard the knock at the door and Brandon calls out, Enter because we can all sense Cheryl at the door. Anton and Kevin were right behind her as she entered quickly. She was openly anxious about why she had been summoned. What happened? She asked as she held onto Anton's hand. Brandon brought her up to speed, and she had to sit down. I could understand her panic. Robert was in a great deal of danger, and we all knew it. Brandon was speaking with Anton for a short time. Anton quickly left the room to go call Alexei, to get a team together to help us get Robert out of Black Moon. At the very least Nadia would be needed to get him up and over the gate, or over the pack's border wall. I sat next to Cheryl and told her that we would be getting him back. I reminded her that most paid no attention to him, and that it had just been a day, surely we would be able to extract him. They would not be expecting us to show up so quickly, plus I was sure the goddess was on our side. I am going too, Cheryl said as she stood. Kevin stepped forward and said, I want to go as well. I knew that they were both going to want to go, but they were not safe there, and this needs to be a quick in and out. No, Graham will want to kill you, Cheryl. I don't want you to go, Anton stated as he re-entered the room. He is my son, he will need me. He will be scared and confused, Cheryl said, and I can hear the fear in her voice. I would be scared too. Graham is free, and there is no doubt that he is taking full advantage of the whole thing. Cheryl, I will be there, and he knows Anton too. He can stay between us when we go. Graham is losing it, he took over, and he is furious at you for the punishment that he has received over the last year. There is no telling what he will do. Clive and Reagan are coming, with some warriors and packing up now. Once Graham realizes that she changed everything over to her own private username and passcode, they will be after her. They are packing now to come here too. Brandon will be letting them build them to stay in the new pack house for the duration until we get Graham and Black Moon dealt with, I told her. I will bring your son back safely. You can trust me. You need to stay here. I know it will be hard, but we will be back very soon. Alexei and the team are gearing up right now and will be at the gate here soon. We can leave when they get here. We will get Robert out, and safely back here with us. He can live with us. We will be starting to build soon. Think about the house, and how you want it. Look at Dream Kitchens. I know you want to go, but I think it would be easier on you to stay here with Kevin. I don't want to give Black Moon the opportunity to hurt either of you, Anton told Cheryl. He is right, her being so anxious will not help out at all, and it would be best if she stayed behind. You need to have her tell Robert that he needs to go hide where we used to play. You also need to tell her who is coming for him, so he can be looking for them. He hasn't interacted with you that much, I don't know if he would come to you. I wish you would let me go too. I know that area like the back of my hand. We both played there because I couldn't play with the rest of the kids in Black Moon. We learned to be on our own. They will see him if he comes to the gate. There were some places we liked to hide in that were about a mile past the gate. He needs to hide there, and someone will have to go over and help him get over the gate. They would shoot him if they saw him attempting to leave. They don't care about him at all. He is just like me, the pack will survive without him. It is on the blood tracker side, I would say to park about a mile, to a mile and a quarter up the road. There were some trees that had exposed roots, and we hid in there, and also in the hollows of some of the trees. We are bigger now, but he should still be able to hide until you can get to him, Kevin told us. Kevin is right, he would be the ideal person to go in with them, to find Robert quicker. He would know exactly where we need to go over the wall. We can't be yelling out for him, it would attract notice rather quickly, Anton said to us. Cheryl could feel our gazes on her, and she sighed before she said, Kevin is right. They played there all the time, and he would be able to locate him the quickest. You need to remember that Blake had the perimeter fence installed with pressure plates at the top of them. If you hit one of them, you will have about 3 to 4 minutes to be clear of the area before a patrol shows up. Please be careful, Kevin. I cannot lose any of you, promise me that you will be safe. Anton wrapped her in his arms and hugged her to him. We all started to head out of the room to give them privacy as he spoke to her and comforted her. I called Reagan back and told her what to tell Robert. I told her to tell him to not make it obvious and to act naturally so they wouldn't suspect anything if they called to check on Reagan. She is going to meet us there near Black Moon. Justin had contacted my father, Cole, to let him know what we were going to do. We didn't need help with the extraction, but in case we had them chasing us, we would need to stop there for protection. Dad agreed and told us to let him know when we were coming in, as they could help us on our way in as well. Kevin hugged his mother too, and I nodded at her, we have got this. We trained for several different potential problems, and our men were all well trained too. I just hope that we can get in and out before we are found out. I was glad she mentioned that. I didn't know that they had them, we had them in our pack too, and they do come in handy. Graham will give the go-ahead to kill us for making the attempt. We pulled outside the gate to wait for Alexei and his team. Anton was in the SUV with us and told us when to pull out, as they were almost there. There were a total of 4 SUVs heading down the road together in the convoy. It was Brandon and Justin in the front. Anton and I are seated in the second row, and Kevin is in the back. 2 of the SUVs were carrying 4 warriors each, and their weapons in the back of the SUV behind the last row of seats. The last one held Alexei and his coven. I didn't know who was in there, but I knew Nadia was definitely going to be there. Her skill set was perfect for this, and I prayed again for us to be able to get this done. We arrived in the area at 520. We were early, and only about 10 minutes away from their pack now. We stopped to make sure that the plan was set in stone. One of the SUVs of warriors was going to set up before the gate. They were about a quarter mile from it, and in a good place to be able to cross the median to go to the other side if needed. Justin was with that group. Alexei was going to come with us, and he would be going over the wall with Anton and Kevin to find Robert. The vampires would be parked behind us. Kira was staying with us, as well as Dmitri. The second SUV of warriors would carry Polina and Irina with them. If a problem arose, Polina would use her powers to create fire and melt the gate together. Irina would build a wall of ice to keep their gate guards from shooting out of the pack. We were all wanting it to go smoothly, but we knew who we were dealing with, and knew that we needed to get in and out quickly. At 555 we all got into the vehicle that we were going to ride in, to leave the area that we had been waiting in. The good news was that since it was fall, it was getting darker a lot earlier, and that will help us as well. We had just pulled into our positions when Reagan called and said that she had spoken to Robert and that he would be in place for us to pick him up in the next 10 minutes. She said that they were parked on the other side of the hill from us and ready to go when we had Robert. I told her that since they had the children with them, for them to go ahead and pass up Black Moon and get a few miles up from us to safety. I told her I would call her when we are leaving here. Robert had told Reagan that he felt like he was being watched, so he was going to go back up to his room, and then come down and go out through the back stairwell. We waited for a little while and Alexei, who was carrying Kevin, and Anton, who would carry Robert back over, jumped easily onto the top of the 10-foot wall. They jumped down to the other side, and Dmitri walked up to Brandon and said, "Anton said that he hit one of the perimeter sensors. We need to be prepared for company." Brandon quickly linked the other, and Dmitri did the same with their group. I could hear howls going up into the night as the patrols started heading this way. I could also hear them calling for Robert. They knew someone was there, no further need to be silent. Then we heard the gunshots. Things started moving quickly then. I could see the giant ball of fire hit the gate. She needed to get this done, and she was creating the second ball to send over when the shooting started. I could see Irina getting her ball of ice building from where we were. Our men started to return fire at them and held them down, and Polina managed to get the second ball of flame on the gate. We had to keep them from leaving in an SUV to chase us, and she had to work fast to keep them from being able to open the gate before she got it taken care of. I see the wall of ice taking shape as Irina makes the third section, just as we heard a noise above us. Alexei and Kevin had just landed on the top of the wall when the shooting started. Nadia went to jump up onto the wall to help, but Alexei said, "It is too late, just come get Kevin." Dmitri jumped up to get Kevin and then jumped back down to the ground. Kevin headed to the back row of the SUV. I could hear loud whining noises coming from the patrol headed our way. Alexei jumped back up with Robert in his arms and left him at the top of the wall to jump back down. Dmitri jumped up to get Robert, and Alexei hit the top of the wall about 20 seconds later holding Anton. It was clear that he had been shot. Alexei jumped down and jumped into our SUV with Anton and started to work on healing him as Brandon turned us around. The boys were on the last row and silent as Alexei started to heal Anton. "I have got you, brother," Alexei told Anton as he worked on him. Brandon made a quick turn and Dmitri was right behind us. We saw several SUVs at the gate as we passed Black Moon to leave, but they couldn't get the gate to open due to the gate having melted together and it would not separate. I saw Graham standing there, furious at the fact that they had lost Robert. I saw Forrest standing there with him, and he was pissed as well. I bet he was the one following Robert. I bet they thought that Cheryl would come for him, and they could take Cheryl prisoner to get Blake to talk. I know they are angry that their plan failed. I am glad I sent Reagan and her children on, as there were shots fired today, and it was a very dangerous situation. We stopped for a moment at Reagan's convoy of SUVs. Alexei got out with Anton and got in the vampire SUV, for Kira to help him continue to heal Anton. Justin got in the front seat again. I used up a whole container of wipes I had to clean up the venom that Anton lost in the SUV. He does not have blood, but they do have a venom that runs through them, similar to blood. It helps to lubricate their joints, moistens their eyes, and keeps them able to function. I am worried about the amount of it in the SUV. I have no idea if they need to give him a transfusion of their venom, or if they even could. I would think that he would need blood to help him heal. I remember them mentioning that although Alexei and Dmitri can heal, Kira is the one that does the best job of it and is the strongest at healing for their coven. Brandon takes the lead heading back to Blackadder with the vampires right behind us. Reagan's group of 4 SUVs is behind the vampires, with our warriors taking up positions about a mile behind the group. We make good time heading back, and we have no one following us back. I know that they are going to have to get something to be able to cut through that mess of melted steel at their gate. The thought of just how mad Graham was at us getting Robert, almost makes me smile. The only thing preventing it was the fact that Anton got hurt in it. I am not calling Cheryl to tell her that. I wish Alexei or one of the group was in here with us, so we would know how Anton was doing. As we raced back home through the dark night, my only worry was not of the retribution that was coming from Black Moon. It was for Anton and his condition. I told Cheryl that it was going to be okay. How could it be okay? If she lost her new mate, and the love of her life, to get her son back safely, how would she be able to move forward? The guilt over it would eat her alive. Anton needs to be okay, or else Cheryl is going to be crushed. Chapter 165 Raven's POV. I called ahead to let Cheryl know that we would be there in 5 minutes. I knew she would want to meet us there. Justin notified the gate guards to open the gate for us, and the correct number of SUVs needing to come through with us. They knew who was driving the last one, just in case. They already knew to secure us back to both gates, and the retractable barriers were put back into place after we came through. I gave a sigh of relief that we made it back here safely. I had been worried all the way back, expecting them to find a way out and try to catch up with us. But we had no problems on our return to the pack, other than worrying about Anton, and how he was doing. I had been praying for Anton to be okay, but we hadn't gotten a response from Alexei yet. Dmitri was driving, so he couldn't respond to me asking how Anton was. As soon as we pulled up to the pack house, we were out of our SUV and running back to go check on Anton. Cheryl was busy hugging Kevin and Robert, so she didn't notice our anxiety as we went to the vampire's SUV to check on him. Alexei opened the door of the SUV and we could see Anton sitting upright in the seat next to him. He looked weak, and even paler if that was possible, but he was okay. We need to get him to your pack hospital. We have the supplies with us, but he needs to be put on N4 to get a transfusion of venom in him. He lost a lot before Kira could get his wounds fully healed. Brandon nodded and called out instructions as he headed right back to our SUV for them to follow him. Cheryl heard what Alexei said and she climbed in next to Anton, holding him to her side on the seat, with concern written all over her face. I could see the tears on her face before Alexei shut the door. I stayed with the boys and was going to let them head up to my son's room as I was going to let them have a sleepover tonight. It would help the boys get to know Robert better and take the weight off of Cheryl. I mind-linked her what I was doing, and that I would be staying with them, so she could stay with Anton. She thanked me, and Justin stayed with me, while Brandon and a few of the warriors went with him to the pack hospital. Polina and Irina had come inside the pack house with me, and I had rooms made up for all 6 of them to use tonight. Nadia and Kira had gone to the hospital with the rest of the group. They were fine to stay here overnight, or for as long as they needed to. I don't know how long it will take for Anton to heal. I had Reagan, Clive, and the children come inside with us too. I wanted them and the warriors with them to be able to grab something to eat or drink before we went to the new pack house. It is just not fully functional yet. It had been built and set up, all the rooms decorated and filled with furniture. It was a pretty big pack house at 7 stories tall, and we built it like a resort. The bottom floor was an entry and seating area designed just like a lobby. It also included the dining, kitchen, dry storage, and freezers. Plus the housekeeping and laundry were on the other end. We had built it into a squared-off U shape. It had a great deal of function and kept the workers from running into each other. We also built an industrial elevator in the back area near housekeeping and laundry. It also helped to get furniture moved in a lot easier. The laundry from each floor got done on specific days, so there was 1 day off each week for the work in the laundry area to be more manageable. The housekeeping team also had a day off and they followed the laundry tram by 1 day, so linens were done 1 day, and the general cleaning was done the 2nd day if the occupant needed it. Most of the families didn't use housekeeping, but the single warriors needed additional help with cleaning and their clothes getting washed and returned. It was only $20 a week for the service, and the extra money went to the laundry employees and it seemed like it worked out very well. It is the same thing that we were doing in the main pack house. We had 260 rooms in the new pack house. Some were single bedrooms, for the top 2 floors and 850 square feet. Some had 2 rooms, and those were on the middle 2 floors and were 1,300 square feet. The 3-bedrooms apartments were on the first 2 floors and were over 1,600 square feet. Reagan and Clive were getting 2 of the apartments and would be keeping the younger children with them, and the older children could have their own rooms, with one of the bedrooms always set up with twin beds. We had put a lot of thought into the new pack house. Pups have a lot of energy and run around a lot, so we put them on the lower floors and added different security for the doors. Like deadbolts at the top of the doors, out of reach of children. We didn't have any issues with break-ins or thefts here. It was ready to go, but although the kitchen was set up, the staff had not been assigned to work in them yet, nor had the food been added to the pantry, industrial refrigerators, and industrial freezers. Deliveries had been ordered and were scheduled for next week, but until we get the crew in here to get it working, we were just getting everything set up to be functional and prepared to work correctly. Once we were ready to go, I think that we will be ready with everything in about week's time. Everyone wants to transfer over to the new pack house because it is all nice and new. So we are trying to be fair with what we are going to do. We also needed workers for the laundry area, and housekeeping as well. They would all be getting their own rooms in the pack house. We knew we needed about 40 people to work in all those areas. We pay them for their work, and their room and meals were just a bonus for them included in it. They do train, but they are exempt from having to fight in battles. The training is just for them to be able to protect themselves, in case they needed to do so. There were 4 families already living in it, and I was putting Reagan's family all on the 3rd floor, so they would have it to themselves while they were there. The families that were already here were on the 2nd floor. Justin and I would be going out there to get them settled. I had mind-linked our children that we were back and that we were all safe. The boys had immediately come down to get with Kevin and Robert for a snack. I swear the boys all have hollow legs because they are always ready to eat. My sons then asked if Henry, John, and Atlas wanted to spend the night with them too. They were Reagan's oldest boys, and they were instantly on board, excited about the welcome. Clive went out and grabbed their duffel bags for them to have some of their clothes with them. I was glad that they were up for it, as it is stressful to have to leave your home, especially under these circumstances. They have visited here before, but only for short visits. It was hard to not know what was in store for them, and I know that they already miss Trevor and Aaron too. We all knew how vindictive Graham was. He will probably burn their house down when he goes to try to locate Reagan and get his money back. He will be furious that she got away, and will want to hurt her. It is what he does. It isn't right, but I have rarely known Graham to do the right thing. We already had it set up to where the Warriors were taking the other 2 SUVs back to Blood Tracker tonight. Aaron cannot leave, he is the alpha and had to stay. Trevor, Reagan, and Aaron's oldest child stayed with his father because he has a part to play in this. Since he and Forrest are good friends, Trevor has a bigger part to play going forward. I know that both Aaron and Reagan are both so worried for him. I have to admit that I am worried for him too. Graham is vicious and would kill him if he ever suspects that Trevor is not as good with Forrest as he appears to be. Even with Trevor being his own grandson. I know that Reagan and Aaron will both be waiting with bated breath until he comes back from his first solo trip to Black Moon here in a few months. Trevor will be getting his license in 2 months, and he can start going alone to visit Forrest. That is when the trick will begin. He will be playing up his jealousy at Forrest for getting to take over his birthright at Black Moon so early. Especially without having to find his mate first, or any other hoops that are usually set up for incoming alphas. Trevor will play it up, so he can visit and get some intel on what they are doing at Black Moon. Everyone is concerned for his well-being, but Trevor downplayed the dangerous part of it. Trevor told us, if I can't fool Forrest, and the men following Graham, then I have no business becoming an alpha. It isn't Forrest and the ranked wolves that he has to worry about. I think that he knows it too. He is aware that the problem has been, and will always be Graham. I asked Reagan if she warned him about how devious Graham is, and she told me that she had, but that doesn't stop the worry we have for him. He is literally in the lion's den, and he is a lamb. I am aware that Graham is his grandfather, and that may help him some on his visits. Graham will be asking questions about where Reagan went, as he needs to get her back. It is the easiest route to take to get his money back. Aaron and Trevor both will be acting like she ran off and left them, during the night, and don't know where she went. Darren and Judy still have their 3 children with them, but Graham doesn't care anything about them. He didn't really interact with any of the grand pups. He only went because Cassandra wanted to go, and he liked to get out of Black Moon as he would get bored. He would occasionally speak to them, but only in passing. He had no real interest in any of them really. He was upset that Reagan had changed so much and that none of his grandchildren would follow in his footsteps. The kids got their snacks, and each one picked ice cream, and they were all excited to get to pick their favorite toppings too, mainly the younger ones. It was 8 p.m., and I know that they will be full of energy for a while tonight before bed, but I think it will be good for them to get this chance to be together. I know my children are glad to have their cousins here to visit and train with them. I can see the younger children getting tired, so we headed out to get them set up. The warriors helped to bring the extra stuff in, like photo albums, and stuff the children had made, and drawn over the years. We both knew what Graham was going to do. He is the pettiest and most spiteful person that we know. Aaron has some stuff saved and stored as well at Blood Tracker. But Reagan knew that she couldn't save all of it. I know that their rooms weren't as nice as her home was. Graham had spared no expense when he built it for her. But they can build again when they return to their pack if they wanted to go back, or they can build here if they would like. We notified the gate that there would be 2 SUVs leaving, for the night, as they were heading back right now. No one wants Black Moon to find out that they had been tricked, or where to find Reagan. She was safest here with us. Aaron and Trevor were safest with Graham not finding out they were in on it. After we got them all situated in their rooms at the new pack house, Justin and I stopped by the hospital. I was glad to see that Anton was looking much better. Cheryl looked very relieved at Anton's improvement. She was laying in his bed next to him, pulled tightly to his side with his hand that didn't have the 4 in it. He had to remove his shirt to be checked and treated, as it was ruined anyway. I noticed a stranger in the room with him, speaking with Dr. Max. Alexei saw I was looking at him and he said, "Raven, this is Dominic Gurin, he is the doctor at our coven, and he brought over what we needed to heal Anton." Alexei told me. "Dr. Gurin, it is nice to meet you," I told him, and he nodded at me as they continued to speak excitedly together. Apparently, Dr. Max was very interested in the inner workings of vampires and was asking question after question to Dr. Gurin. I saw that Alexei had his arm wrapped from donating some of his blood to Anton. Dmitri, Kira, and Nadia were all still there, and they had donated, as well. I have to say that Anton did look remarkably better, and I was thankful that they had the means to be able to start healing him from when he was injured. Alexei looked a little run down right now. I know that he has to have been drained from both saving his brother and giving some of his blood. Wait, that is wrong, they all had donated their venom to help heal Anton. They actually have very little blood inside them. Most blood, at least for the men, is used during S*X to get and keep their erections. They are surprisingly very creatures. I knew that they would be needing blood to help them recover from today, so I already had my cooler packed and I got here about 10 minutes before you did after Alexei reached out to me. Everything went very well. They all played a part in healing him, and getting here quickly so he didn't lose more fluids than he had already lost. He will be completely healed in the next 30 minutes, Dr. Gurin told us. I am amazed by how quickly his healing time will be. I looked at him again, and he seemed fine, his skin showing no signs of the wounds that I knew were there earlier. The doctor is also here to aid with getting you changing over to one of us as well, Cheryl. Alexei will be the one to do the actual ceremony, but I will be with you the whole time. That is if you still want to do it. Anton said as he looks down at Cheryl. I could tell that he was concerned that she might have changed her mind about becoming a vampire. I still want to make the change, Anton. I love you. I want to be with you forever. I have never been happier in my life. I just want to make sure that your brother and Coven are okay with it. I know that they like me, but that was before I was going to become a vampire. Will everyone still be okay with it now that it will be forever? Cheryl said to Anton. I could see how delighted Anton was that she still wanted to be his mate. I could hear murmurs from the rest of the group affirming that they were good with it as well. We are all excited about you becoming one of us, Cheryl. I have never seen my brother so happy as he is now. We had noticed it at the start. Anton is very serious, and seeing him warm up to you, and defend you, was wonderful to see. The process will come with pain, but with our having royal blood in us, it will not last as long as it would if someone else performed it. I am so happy to make you an official member of our coven, Cheryl Alexei said to me, and I was happy to see how truly welcoming they are to her into their ranks. They all seemed satisfied with her becoming one of them. Who shot you, Anton? I asked him. Whoever it was got there within a minute of the panel being hit. It was not a coincidence at all. Someone had followed Robert into the woods, they knew we were coming, and had tried to kill whoever they could. Graham was there with Forrest and another man that I had not met yet. All three of them were armed. They were aiming at me because I held Robert, not because I thought that they were aiming at me. I was just moving fast at the time, and they missed. I don't think they even realized that it was me when they first shot. Thankfully one of Alexei's powers gives him control over animals, and even though they were in their human form, he spoke to their animal side. He commanded them to stop, and they were fighting it pretty hard, but they had to submit. We only had about another minute left before they would have broken the command that he had given them. We knew that it was only going to last a minute or two anyway since they were in their human forms. I think that it was a setup from the start. Not set up by Robert but by Graham. They knew that he had called someone, and they wanted to catch Cheryl. I am sure that they overheard the conversation and then knew it was Reagan that Robert was talking to. That was even better for them actually. They wanted to draw Reagan, or Cheryl, in so that they could gain control of the bank account again. They didn't care who they caught, as long as their objective was met. They had no idea that Reagan had already left Blood Tracker, and was now safe. They just wanted to catch whoever showed up, Anton told us all. It made sense, as Robert might not have been paying a lot of attention to who was following him. He was still young, and he has no idea how to be watchful. I bet you are right. It was unusual that this happened so quickly. I honestly thought that we had some time to make preparations, but that didn't happen. I bet with his dad locked up in the cells, and Forrest being how he is, I bet Robert was honestly scared. He would have needed someone to help him, and they probably deliberately pushed him to get him to panic, and call for help. I bet they were all watching him, to see what he would do. He may not have even known that he was being followed. I know that means that they have been torturing Blake to get the information they want out of him. I know Graham very well. He is a monster. He recognizes other monsters. He will set himself up very well there. He just has to have the funds to buy their loyalty. I said to them. They were probably just trying to lure Reagan into the pack to try to save Robert. I think that they thought I was Clive, and just wanted to hurt or injure me. They were at a pretty good distance when they started shooting, or they might have done even more damage to me. I honestly don't think they knew who they were shooting at. I think that they were just shooting at whoever came to Robert's aid, was going to be the target. I think that their plan was to get control of Reagan and force her to give them control of Graham's funds again. I am sure that it is just a matter of time before he gets the account back. He just has to go to a branch that knows him, to get control of it again. I know he doesn't want to do that because the council will definitely want to speak to him about what happened to Blake at Black Moon. Graham knows that he is only safe there inside the pack. Once he leaves, he could be taken into custody by the council. They are just trying to figure out any way that they can to try to get his money back. They needed to be able to arm themselves to try to attack us, Anton told me. We agreed with him. They are desperate, and they used the only line they could tug in this, not expecting us all to show up like we did to rescue him. Just take Anton to your room when he gets discharged, Cheryl. We have the kids tonight, so don't worry. Everyone is set up where they need to be. I put the rest of you on the beta floor, an alpha floor for the night. I will make sure that you each get your keycard for the visitors' rooms. The other members of your team already went up to their rooms. I think that all the work from today took it out of them. Reagan and her family are in the new pack house, but you will see them in the morning for breakfast. I will get the doctor taken care of, and placed on the gamma floor. He can be in the room next to Cheryl and Anton, just in case I told him. We can show you to your room, doctor, after Anton is released, Cheryl told him, and he thanked her for the help. I still have the keycard for that room. I can give it to the doctor for him to use. I never used the room and didn't even enter it, so it is still ready to go, Anton said. Thank you, I appreciate you doing that. This has been a long day, and I am sure that everyone wants to get some rest, I told the group. We will go with you now back to the pack house, Nadia said as she and Kira straightened up from where they were leaning on the wall. I knew they were tired and suggested that Brandon drive us back to the pack house, so the SUV could be brought back for the next time we needed it. We will wait here with Anton, until he is released, then head over. We are good with waiting on them. It shouldn't be that long, and we can drive everyone over in the SUV to get there. We should be leaving here within the hour, Alexei said to us, and the doctor nodded in agreement. It is still amazing to me how fast he healed. I thought our wolf healing us was super quick. It was amazing what they can do to help heal each other. It just showed how close-knit they were to each other, wanting to protect each other. I was glad that Brandon had met them and encouraged them to be an ally with us. They were quite effective in a fight. I know that when the time comes, they will be a big help to us. I am glad that Anton and Cheryl found each other. I think that they both deserve to find true love. It is about time for them both to be happy. Chapter 166 Graham's POV. I have to run home to shower. I am covered in Blake's blood, and I am enjoying giving him the payback that he deserves. That bastard has left me beaten and over 200 times in the last year. The only days that he skipped were on days he visited that BH. I was so damn close to killing her. I am still shocked that she was able to escape. My jaw clenched in anger at just the thought of it. I had her where I wanted her, and yet she lives. I know something happened there because when he came back yesterday, he was indeed going to kill me. My legs cried at me running, but I was literally running for my life. He was going to kill me where I stood if I hadn't. I knew where my men would be, and so I had to let them know that it was time to start our plan. Every time that Alpha left, we would go into the office, and try to find the login information to take back over my bank account. It was nowhere to be found in the office, not even in the safe, and we were frustrated. We had even checked his apartment and each of the children's rooms. Even Mark was angry, as he was the go-to guy for the technical aspects of the pack. He was especially angry that Blake had cut him out as a trusted ranked wolf, as was Garrett. They were mad when he just called them into the office and demoted them both. The worst part for them was that they had been training their sons to take over their positions from them. Blake had not decided if he was going to allow them to do that or not yet. I had assured both of them that should they assist me in correcting the wrong way that Blake was running the pack, I would have them both reinstated, and their sons would take over their positions when the time came to do so. They even got Travis on board with our plan. Forrest was thrilled at getting to take over the pack sooner than later. He was angry at his dad for even considering taking his mom back. He was angry with her for trying to control what he bought or spent money on. He wanted an Audi for his first car, and Cheryl had shot it down when he had brought it up at dinner. She said that it was too expensive, and not a good choice for a first car. He told her he wasn't planning on wrecking it. She reminded him that no one plans on wrecking, it was just a part of life. He had been furious with her ever since because Blake had sided with Cheryl about it. That had really pushed him over the edge. Forrest was putty in my hands after that. I had told him that as soon as I got control of my money again, that I would be sure to buy him his dream car. Garrett had found his mate, Elise, a short time after Blake and Cheryl got together. They actually had 2 daughters first when they started having pups. In this pack, much like I did in my own pack, we didn't allow women to have ranked positions. They weren't strong enough fighters and they made rash decisions. So, although his oldest daughter Tina, who was almost 16, was indeed at the top of the class in training, she was never going to be promoted to beta, no matter what she did. Neither was her sister, Sheila, who was also a great fighter and was almost 15 and a half. They were 6 months apart, as Garrett wanted a boy, so as soon as she was cleared he tried again, only to get another girl. I understood his frustration, as I wanted a boy, but no matter what I did, I never could get one. Despite me not using protection with any of my girlfriends, or Cassandra. I tried and tried for years to get a son, only to find that there was nothing wrong with any of us. That it was obviously the goddess punishing me. She might have prevented me from having Reagan too, but she was conceived the same night as Raven was. I know Reagan only got a pass because Cassandra was fertile, and was already pregnant with Raven. Otherwise, I doubt that I would have had any children at all. The goddess likes to BT into my business all too often now, and I know why. I never knew that Cassandra was a descendant of hers, and I bet Cassandra didn't know either. Cassandra never let a reason to brag go. If she had a reason to build herself up, she always took it. There was no way she knew beforehand that she was, or she would have told anyone and everyone about her illustrious background. I used to be so proud of my daughter, she looked up to me so much and would do anything at all to make me happy. She tried to emulate me at every turn and made sure that I knew what she was doing. She just wanted me to be happy, and proud of her, and I gave her what she wanted. She wanted clothes, jewelry, and her precious car, and she got them. I made sure that she and her mother were well taken care of, and got everything they wanted. I took care of my special lady friends too, just not as much as I did for my family. I know that she hated to leave her car behind, but there was no way that they wouldn't have known that we were planning on escaping, as no one but Reagan was allowed to drive it. It was too big of a red flag to wave to anyone who was paying attention at the gate. We were barely able to escape ourselves with our lives. That was the best that I could do, was what I did to get us out of there. I was really glad that we ended up here at Black Moon. It was the only good thing that Silas ever did. Blake was already mistrustful of the council and didn't want anything to do with them, or in his business. It was a win for us, as well as for the pack. We got safety and security, and he was able to make the upgrades to the pack that he always wanted to do. I have to say that I was glad to move back into my home. I had missed this place so much. The first thing that I did was throw Silas and Billy out of there. Silas was pissed, but I was even more pissed. His daughter was the reason that I was locked up, and beaten. She should have died here, and I should have pressed harder. I had it all figured out. I knew she was right there at the end, I knew she wouldn't make it too much farther. I knew that Blake was going to go crazy with guilt and anger, and I already had it set up. Better than my original plan too, as I was going to have to get Forrest to kill Kevin. But Kevin became too powerful for Forrest to kill. So I knew I had to get Blake to do it. Kevin would be no match for his father, especially in the fury that Blake would be in at losing his chosen mate. It was the perfect plan, an absolute masterpiece, and there was no way for it to fail. At least, that is what I thought until that BH killed my mate and ran away to where I cannot kill her myself. Well, at least not right now. But I will, and I swear that I will make her suffer just as much as I have suffered with my beautiful mate taken from me. I already have plans on what I am going to do to Raven, and to Cheryl. They both were a thorn in my side, but Raven was the reason that I had to run and hide. That made me seem like less than a man, because I turned tail, and wasn't up for a fight. I wasn't, at the time, but now things are different. I will again remind people that I am not to be trifled with and that I still have power. People have forgotten that I already was a powerhouse, and will be again. They will fall in line to become allies as soon as I teach Blackadder a lesson. As soon as I get done with them, then Bloodwalker will get what is coming to them. Cole's blatant disrespect to me, his dismissal of my authority, and his causing me to have to go on the run. These are all things that I need to pay back to him in short order. I cannot go after 2 packs at the same time though, even if I have 2 packs with me. We need to go in and take them down as quickly as we can. I had a lot of time to think about it in my cell. There was nothing else to do there, but think. Nighttime was the hardest for me because I would wake up during the night after having a dream about my Cassandra. Her beautiful face still haunts me to this day. I still miss her, she can never be replaced, not as far as I was concerned. No matter if I find another to be with, Cassandra will always be the one who is always in my heart. I took my shower and went to change into a new outfit, and then go find something to eat. I was kind of glad that I had some space alone. I had gotten used to it while I was in the cell. I think that if Cassandra were still alive that I would have still kicked Silas and Billy out, just for us to have alone time here. I grabbed a glass of wine and got a snack out of the fridge. Taking my anger out on Blake helped, but it was much harder than I thought it was going to be. My hands hurt, and my ribs hurt, for all the twists that I made punching him. I wasn't stupid enough to leave him free in the cell. I remember very well each and every time he made a visit to me. He was a strong fighter, I can't beat him in a fair fight. I made sure that he was strung up by his wrists, and hung from a hook in the ceiling so I could do maximum damage to him. It also kept him from being able to fight back against me, and that was the most important thing. Brady was now in the cell next to Blake's, as Brady was not going to go along with us, and what we were doing. So for our safety, I had him locked up. I had a motto, either you are with me, or you are against me. Brady would not agree to work with us, so the former beta was put in the cells, right next to his alpha. Brady's wife was really upset by Garrett and Mark showing up and taking him like that. Garrett was happy to take his position back as Beta, Mark was the Gamma, and Forrest was the Alpha. That was as far as the pack knew was going on. Travis was content to take the backup Gamma position again, as he really didn't like the workload of being the only one. Blake always had double Beta and double Gamma positions, and I never knew why, but they do have a large workload here. Travis was my favorite of all of them. Because he was the easiest of all of them, to get on board with my plan actually. He wanted something specific in return for his willingness to assist with the plan. His obsession had already cost him his mate, and pups. When I found out that he was obsessed with both Reagan and Raven, it made my choice of bargaining with him so much easier. He was obsessed to the point that he had found someone who looked a little like them, and set them up in a nearby town so he could visit her when he wanted to. He forgot about the bond, and his mate was furious with him when he returned home. He refused to stop seeing his girlfriend, and when he cheated the second time, she waited for him to come home and rejected him. She had to force him to accept it, and she was prepared for his return, as was the rest of her family. Her father was an alpha, and her brother was now the alpha of their pack. They were much larger than our pack, so she got away with doing it. Blake didn't want to be going to war with them. It was a good call, I won't be doing it either, they have a large pack. Travis still doesn't even realize what he has done yet, he just does what he wants with his girlfriend, and seems very happy about it. His only request for help was that he get Reagan, and Raven, as his reward. We all told him that they would fight him every step of the way, but he seemed to anticipate it and was happy about it. I did tell him that he could have the girls, but only after they had been disciplined for their actions, of course. Reagan is used to what he will be wanting, and Raven deserves the punishment for it. Hell, if I don't kill Cheryl, I will give her to him too as payment. I am sure that will be a nightmare for both her, and Blake. I hear the doorbell sound, and it is Garrett and Forrest, right on time. We are going to go to Blood Tracker to speak to Reagan. It has just been 24 hours at this point from when I took over at Black Moon. Garrett drove us over, and I was fine to sit in the back seat. Forrest thinks it is out of respect for him, but it isn't. He is a moron and would destroy the pack. I will get him to do what I need him to, and let me run it behind the scenes. He is only a mouthpiece, he knows nothing, and he will be running nothing. I know how to take care of a pack and he doesn't, it is that simple. Garrett knows that I will be the one running it, and defers to me already. He knows who is in charge because money always lets the ones with it run the show. Forrest gets out of the SUV like he is in charge now, and I let him. The gate guards had announced we were coming and Aaron and Trevor are in front of the pack house to greet us. I won't mince words with Aaron and asked for Reagan to be summoned right off the bat. She is no longer here, Graham. She took off earlier today. She was taking the children to go get clothes, but she has not come back just yet. Clive took the second SUV to go run an errand with the older kids, but they have not returned. I was starting to get worried about them myself, Aaron told me, and I looked at him suspiciously. How long have they been gone then, Aaron? An hour? 5 hours? Did she say something to you about it? She took your children, are you not suspicious about that? So Trevor is the only one left now? Where are they? I asked him. This is ridiculous. If I didn't know for a fact that we had knocked Blake out before he could notify anyone of what we had done, I would be even more suspicious of this whole thing. But really, how could any of them have known what we did? I checked Blake's phone, I went through all of his messages. There was nothing there to arouse any suspicion. She left around noon, and he left around 3. I don't keep that kind of eye on all of my pack members, Graham. I have too many of them to keep up with. They are free to come and go as they need to. I only insist that they have to attend training and come to work in a timely manner. She may have returned, and I just didn't notice it. I can go check her house if you want, it would only take a little while to do it, Aaron offered. That is a good idea. I want to see her house too. We can all go there to check for her. I am just worried about my daughter. I haven't seen her for a while, as I was locked up. But I would like to get to see her, now that I have been given my freedom back, I told him and gave him a smile. There is no way that he would know that there is a problem, not just yet at least. What he said made sense though, no alpha can check all the comings and goings of the pack. Maybe I am just paranoid right now, and I try to force myself to calm down. We drove over to her home, and the lights were out and neither of her vehicles was there. I am starting to get a bad feeling over this. She is always home, as she dotes on the children and does the best she can for them. Trevor walked right into the house, I guess because he lives here, it is second nature to him. I can see by his face, that he was worried too now. I watched him pull his phone out of his pocket and start texting, and I walked over to read over his shoulder, while he waited for a reply. I had Garrett search the house while I waited downstairs with Aaron. Trevor and Forrest talked and rattled on about general stuff before I heard his phone ping with a response. I got closer to read the reply and I see that she only replied that they were gone and that they were not coming back. That she was sorry to leave him, but he was the next alpha, and Aaron would have hunted her down if she had taken him. I would have too if my heir was taken and just a short time before he was supposed to take over. I would have been furious. It seems like Aaron was shocked as well, and Trevor was even more upset. He has lived with his mother for over the last 6 years. He loves her, and he is a good kid. I can feel how upset he is, and he went over to Aaron, who gave him a hug and told him that he would be okay. That they would figure out what they needed to do. Aaron sent him up to his room to pack a bag for the next few days, and they would come back for the rest of his stuff and figure out where his mother went. I already know where she went. She and Raven had made up, and there was nowhere else she could go. Just like me, she burnt bridges. No one else would dare to take her into their pack. I would bet my life that they were all 3 of them at Blackadder, probably living it up with my money. Well, not for long, ladies, not if I have a damn thing to say about it. I will get this taken care of myself, and get everything that I deserve coming back to me. I see that Aaron looked stunned that she would leave the pack, and frankly a little angry too. I could care less if she shafted him. I need some funds, today. I need to look at his books and see what he can spare for me. It was my money anyway, whatever Reagan had given him. Since it was from my own account, I was the rightful owner, and I wanted it back. So, I guess that I am about to ruin his day even further. As soon as Trevor came back down, I could tell that he was even more upset. Garrett came down after him and nodded at me, as we went back to the SUV to go to the pack house. Garrett told me that a lot of the house had been cleaned out, except for Trevor's room. That he was really upset at being left behind like that. Like they didn't love him enough to take him with them. He said that he saw Trevor going into Reagan and Clive's room and looked around. It seemed like she played them both like she played me. Well, that means that they will both be on my side in this, and maybe they will agree to work with us when we go to attack. I will wait and watch to see what happens though. I am not going to jump the gun and show my hand now. I needed to just wait and watch them, then I can make an informed decision. Aaron, I am sorry to do this to you, but Reagan took my money. I know that she has put money into your pack, and I am going to need a substantial amount of it back as we need to get a few things done at Black Moon. I will pay you back after I get control of my bank account. I won't take all of your funds, but I will need about 90% of what you have in the bank before I leave, I told him. I could see the shock on his face before he managed to calm down. Graham, I have to pay the bills and order food for my pack. I can give you the bulk of it, as she did give me $2 million, and I understood it to be your money. But the rest of the money that is in the bank, are pack funds and need to be used for the pack. I don't mind giving you the funds that belong to you, but I need to be able to provide for my people, Aaron told me, and I kept my face neutral, but I was really happy to hear about the infusion of money. That was actually much more than I figured he would be able to give me in the first place. He showed me the books for the pack, and I could see exactly when she gave him the money a few months ago, but he never touched it. His pack was doing okay, not great, but not scraping along either. I know from seeing the 3 gardens that he had his members grow a lot of what they ate here. I was glad that they did that, and I agreed with what he offered to do. There was no need to take more than what she had given him. It was a good start and it took a lot of the pressure off of us, for now. I could see the surprise on both Garrett and Forrest's faces. They were pleased too, but they showed how happy they were when they heard how much they need to learn to school their features. I will mention it in the SUV on the way back to the pack. Aaron wrote out the check and gave it to me. He had written it out to me, and I have to say that it seemed that he and Trevor were just as taken aback by Reagan's actions as I was. I wanted to tear her place apart, but I didn't. I could stay there when I came to visit this pack. It was a nice home, and it would be a waste to mess it up now. Especially when I could see some of the art and instruments. Plus, I already know where she went. I will eventually get control of my account again. I have already decided what I needed to do. They think that they are so freaking smart, well they weren't. I will get someone to help me out as I make up my plans to build up the pack. I will be paying attention for the next few months, but it really seemed like Reagan and Clive made up a little disappearing act on poor Aaron and Trevor. I think that they will be excellent allies for us. I just need to not let Aaron find out what happened to Blake. He will not help us if he knew that Blake and I just changed places. If Blake was smart, he would have killed me when he had the chance. Too bad for him, that he will not have a chance at killing me now. The last thing that Blake will ever see is me coming to end his sorry life, as I take everything that he ever valued away from him. It will be my absolute pleasure to return all of the favors that he was so willing to do to me, back to him. I will make him suffer a great deal, and then I will kill him. Chapter 167 Cheryl's POV 7 months later / Blackadder Pack. These last 7 months have been absolutely wonderful. Anton makes me happy every single day. He treats me better than anyone in my life ever has. I am so glad I decided to take a chance to be with him forever. Our home was built quickly, and he had it built with 6 bedrooms. Our master bedroom and 2 bedroom were downstairs, the other 3 bedrooms were upstairs, along with a game room, and a home office. Anton built his home office at the top of the stairs, with the guest bedroom directly across from it. He built a home gym in the next room down, with the game room across from it. The boys' rooms were across the hall from each other next door to them. Each of the rooms upstairs is very large. The home gym and game room alone were 20 × 20, and the boys' rooms about the same size. The end of the hallway is what I lovingly call the hangout for the boys. Anton spared no expense making it exactly what the boys wanted upstairs. There was a large TV on one wall and plenty of seating in the game room already set up. It has every gaming console that you could think of, set up and ready to go. They also had some arcade games set up in there as well, for the ones that were no longer playing on the console. They loved to have competitions against each other, and there was usually a lot of noise coming from the room, if they didn't shut the door. Anton had each of the rooms upstairs soundproofed, as well as our bedroom. I had gotten so embarrassed when he mentioned that as a necessary item for the home. He just squeezed my hand and winked at me. It reminded me of the first time we met, when I couldn't stop looking at him. I thought it was just an interest in vampires in general. But I was only looking at him, and not really checking out any of the others. It was like he attracted my interest from the very start, and I didn't know why. His wink still makes my heart sing each and every time he does it, because it reminds me of the first time we met. The last room at the end of the hall was set up where they could watch movies on one end of the room, and the room was massive. It ran the length of the house and was 65 feet long, and 20 feet wide. They had a full fridge, and a countered snack area, which was situated right next to it. Whatever you could think of, whether salty or sweet or both, could be found up there. I restocked the items on the counter each week, and put the remainder in the storage under the counter to keep the area straight. I also set up 2 garbage cans for them to never have an excuse to not clean the room. I had Anton put a sink in up there too, so they could dump out any unfinished drinks before they left. I guess I might be a stickler for it, but I don't want to be dragging any leaking trash bags through my home. It was complete with one of those old Timmy popcorn machines, with the little pot to melt butter in and wheels on it so you could move it around. Anton had the snack area built in between the theater area, and the games to protect the TV from any stray balls that could fly over and shatter it. There were couches, chairs, and beanbags scattered around for everyone to get comfortable to watch a movie up there. Sometimes the adults came over with the kids, for the kids to spend time together, and we would watch a movie ourselves. There was a pool table set up at the far end of the room, with a foosball table, an air hockey table, and a basketball game. The walls were set up with wall protectors on them in case one of the balls was hit into it. It was a really nice area, and the boys were so proud to show their friends our new home. Neither of them had really had friends before we came here. Plus, even if they had, they were not allowed to bring anyone into the Alpha's quarters. So they never got to have friends over before now. They always went over to visit with Jackson and his brothers, but this was built with them all in mind. The fact that Anton cared, and planned this specifically for them, made me love him even more. He cared about how the boys felt, and it showed in everything that he did. They were so excited about their new rooms, and their new home. They got to decorate how they wanted their rooms to be, and the boys were just flourishing here. We had only been in our new home for 2 months now, but I loved it. I also loved the fact that Robert had taken his cue from Kevin, and had given Anton a chance. Anton's office upstairs was 15 times 20, with a bookcase built all the way down the wall, one with storage underneath it. He also had additional storage built in at the end of the wall. He had a picture on his desk of us with the boys, that we took last month. He had some spots on the wall that he said he was saving that space specifically to put up our pictures when we get married at the end of the month. I did not know it when I was turned, but Alexei and Anton were both very wealthy. Like very, very wealthy, which is why it amused Anton so much that I was willing to pay to build us our home. He never mentioned it until we were making up the house design, and he was having me pick out my dream kitchen. What I wanted, and what I could afford were 2 very different things. When he told me to make it exactly what I wanted, I balked. I didn't need the fancy stuff, I just needed him. He was pleased that I wasn't after him for his money, like Lauren had been. The fact that he didn't spend enough to keep her, was why she went with Draven. That should have told him that she was just in it for what she could get, not for love. Anton has been training the boys for months, with their friends joining in the training, and Justin tagged along too. Justin was highly impressed with how Anton trained. Anton was excellent at helping the children understand just how to do it. He thoroughly explained foot placement, and how to move through each one of the moves that he taught them. He even wrote a manual for Justin to implement it with the rest of the pack for them to be trained as well. They can only be stronger for the additional training. I train as well because Anton wants me to stay as safe as I can be. Learning tactics from him gives me an edge. I was already really strong when I was a wolf, but I am stronger and faster now than I have ever been. I thought that people would be very judgy of me after I became a vampire too, but no one has really mentioned it. Well, at least not to my face, but this pack has had a treaty with the vampires for 15 years now. They have had no trouble with the coven at all in all this time, and are used to them coming here and interacting with the ranked wolves. There is no longer any real fear of them, here at Blackadder, just a little curiosity about them as a whole. So the overall opinion of the vampires is pretty high here. Anton excused the reason for us having so many rooms as being that we needed them for our children, and my heart sang when he claimed them as our children. He also wanted the guest room upstairs to be for Alexei for when he came here to visit with us, which was more frequent now that our home was built. He also wanted a space for Casey, if she decided to come and visit after the fight was over. Anton had thought of everything, including a generator that kept our fridge in the kitchen, and the one we had in our bedroom to where they would still run, even with a power outage. Blood tends not to like to get warm, and has to be used quickly if we did lose power. We kept that fridge separate, as I did, like to remind the boys that I had changed. Our power grid is attached to the human world, and occasionally power outages happen. The big generators at the pack makes sure that the refrigerators and freezers always keep working no matter what, at both pack houses. It would be very expensive to have to replace all the ruined food if they didn't have the generators. My decision to become a vampire was the best decision that I have ever made. Knowing that I get the privilege to be with Anton, for the rest of my life, makes me so happy. I catch him staring at me sometimes and the look in his eyes makes my knees weak. He loves me and doesn't try to hide the fact from me. He wants me to know how much he loves and cares for me each day. He stopped aging at 25, and I am stopped now at 38, which did cause me a little bit of concern, especially at first. I was worried that he would not want me because I was older in my appearance than he was. According to him, he cannot tell any difference between us. The fact that he even said that to me, made me love him even more. He is so handsome to me, I cannot stop glancing at him, because in my eyes he is perfection. I can feel our bond growing stronger day by day and I can feel a tug similar to the mate bond. Anton is such a big help to me. I have been tired since before we even moved in here, and he has just put everything where I wanted it. He had a crew come in with the furniture that we picked out, I only had to point out where I wanted it to be placed. He takes such good care of me, and each night with him is better than the last. I feel the need to be with him all the time. Like I crave his presence near me and I am so glad that he can work from home. Our time together has been wonderful, the only downside was the day that I was turned. That was a truly horrible day from a pain standpoint, and that was putting it mildly. I had spoke to the boys the morning that they were going to do it. They were both anxious for me, but they both knew how much I truly loved Anton. They both hugged me, and Raven was nice enough to have them sleep over at the pack house, as none one knew how long it was going to take. Alexei had told Brandon that it would be best for them to have one of the homes that did not have a family currently staying in it. One that was further away from the other homes would be preferable. The only thing available that fit the criteria was one of the patrol cabins for the warriors that patrol. It was away from the other homes and is there for the men in inclement weather, or in case of injury to be able to get shelter, or the medical bag from it. Brandon advised the patrols of what they could expect, and asked for us to not be interrupted during the process. It only had a table and chairs, and 2 twin beds on opposite sides of the room. They had a small fridge in there, and Alexei, Anton, and Dr. Gurin were all there with me. The doctor set himself up on the bed across the room, as he was only there in case of emergency. It still cracks me up thinking about it to this day, as I was literally losing my life that day. So, what kind of possible emergency could have come up that would have been worse than that? I had asked that very question, jokingly, a few weeks later. Anton told me that some have actually died during the process, and not become immortal. They just died, instead of their body accepting the change to become vampires. I was glad I found that out, after the fact. Alexei has not lost anyone yet, but the possibility of it happening was terrifying. I am honestly glad no one mentioned it before I was changed. The pain was bad enough that I knew I was dying, and I was scared. That was not a great thing to hear, and I was glad that Anton didn't mention it until I had made the joke I had. Anton had marked me the night before I was changed, not even when Blake marked me. Whatever was between us, was clearly very strong, and I believed that we were meant to be a love for the ages. Anton was proud of his marks too. I marked him at the beginning when I was a she-wolf, and I also marked him as a vampire too. I am sorry, vampires, which I never knew, but it makes sense. I loved the fact that I got to mark him twice. He was so proud of his mark on me, that the only thing he asked me to do as far as the wedding was make sure that the wedding dress would not cover his mark. He wants everyone to see it, and know that I am his. Alexei and the doctor teased him a lot during the process, while I was suffering, because he was so worried about me. They were worried that he might lose control and hurt someone, so while we held hands, they teased him about something that he could look forward to. They were trying to get his mind off of what was happening to me, by having him focus on something that made him happier. He had already asked me to marry him, and I had agreed instantly. Why would I refuse? I was becoming a vampire for him, why would I refuse a wedding? I wanted to claim him, as much as he wanted to claim me. That alone was rare. Vampires do have a type of bond already. They are serious about keeping their mates safe from harm. But they normally do not marry their mates. I had wished I had felt better to jump in on the teasing of him as well, but I just stayed quiet. I was scared if I opened my mouth, the screams that I were so desperately trying to hold in so hard, would have escaped. It felt like I could feel every square inch of my skin, and it was so uncomfortably hot. But that wasn't the worst part of it. I felt like 1,000 tiny bugs were crawling on me, biting me inside my body. I felt like I could feel them as they moved me, and I knew that my body was dying. That was what had to happen for me to complete this. It was putting up a fight to not die, but the venom was moving through my veins, shutting down all my organs. It was a long and painful process, one that I thankfully will never have to repeat, but it was incredibly arduous. Alexei had told Anton that he might have to go away if my screams got too bad, before we even started. I knew if Anton left me, that would be the worst thing of all. I knew that I could push through as long as I could see him, and feel his hand in mine. Anton calms me, and I knew that if he left that this whole thing would probably be twice as bad, and I couldn't even conceive the level of pain I was in right now, before today. I don't think I could have handled it if Anton was not there to help me through it. I honestly don't think that I would have survived it without him. I was lucky that Alexei had done the honors of turning me, is what Anton later told me. Alexei had turned numerous people into vampires. He was one of the most knowledgeable vampires about what needed to be done to turn someone. The fact that they were royals also helped as it sped up the process. Anton was so upset as he brushed the hair back from my face. He looked like he wanted to scream out in pain for me. It took almost a full day, 20 hours, of intense, unbelievable pain. Both Alexei and the doctor were impressed with my strength. Apparently they had done this at least 80 times together. They told me afterwards that they had never had anyone manage to get through it without screaming from the onslaught of pain. I was the first to successfully get through it, and I knew Anton had felt my pain. I watched him cry for me, at least twice during the whole process. The fact that he was hurting, because I was, let me see how much he really cared for me. I know that I had passed out from the pain of it for a little while too. That helped me manage for about an hour of it, but it wasn't much for downtime. I was just exhausted and needed to sleep. So, I looked into his eyes as his brother and the doctor tried to take both of our minds off of what I was going through to discuss our wedding. They were trying to help, but I just couldn't open my mouth to answer. Anton kisses my forehead and said, "Well, first off, Cheryl will be needed a ring. I know what I like, but she needs to be the one to pick it out. I have no idea what size ring you wear, or I would have already surprised you. You don't have any rings in your possession as I was going to take one into the jeweler to get your ring designed already. So, I knew I needed to take you in, but I have been ring shopping for hours online since you agreed to be mine. I have a top 3 picked out. As soon as you're up to it, I wanted to take you into the city to pick it out. Also, I would like for you to start looking at dresses. I want to see you come down the aisle in a gorgeous dress. It is up to you on the design of it, you look gorgeous in anything. I only have one request, please do not cover up my mark on you. I want it to be front and center in all of our wedding photos. I cannot wait to have your smiling face on our bedroom walls, the living room, and in my office. I want to look up wherever I am in the house, and still see your beautiful face in any room I am in. I cannot believe how strong you are, my love. I know how painful this is, but it is a necessary evil. I have participated in these before, and it was horrible, nerve-wracking with the screams of pain. I am so proud of you, my love. I am so glad you were willing to do this, for us to stay together for the rest of eternity. Even in the midst of my greatest pain, he always makes me feel better. I felt a tear escape out of my eye, and run down the side of my face. I reached out my free hand to him and stroked his face, as I let my eyes tell him how much I loved him too. I would do anything for him, including die for him. The pain grew to an uncontrollable level and I passed out a second time. When I awoke, the room was absolutely silent. Alexei was at the table working on his laptop. The doctor was napping the bed across the room. Anton was on his knees next to the bed with his head laying next to my waist, on the bed, with my hand in his. I touched his head, and ran my fingers through his silky hair. The excruciating pain that I had felt, was now gone, and I have to say that I was relieved by that fact. I have never hurt so much in my life, but to live out the rest of my days with Anton, was entirely worth it to me. I felt his head move as he was waking up and I could see his excitement that I was awake. I remember hoping that it was over, that the pain was done at this time, but I honestly didn't know if it was or not. Alexei and the doctor came over to check me out, and I sat up on the bed, while they did it. Anton sat right next to me and continued to hold my hand. His loving gaze leveled on me, and I didn't want to look away from him. "Please let me be the first to welcome you to our family," Alexei told me as the doctor completed his examination. He seemed so happy for Anton and I to have found each other. Maybe it was because he knew that Anton was much happier now with me in his life than he was before. I grinned back at Alexei, as I was really happy right now too. The doctor said everything went well, and they were both very impressed at me for not screaming through the entire process. I guess it was a matter of pride for me as well. I have always been tough, as the important men in my life expected me to be. My father, my chosen mate, Blake, they always expected it out of me. I lived to please, so I always did what they wanted me to, but this was different. Anton made me happy. He was the reason for the smile on my face. He loved my sons, and risked his own life to get Robert out of Black Moon. He was injured trying to protect me, and Robert. He is my safe place, and just his presence around me, calms me. I did this for him, I did this for me, because I wanted our lives to be forever entwined with each other. I remember vowing that very day I was changed, that Graham was going to die by my hands. He was going to get what he so richly deserved. Not just for what he did to me and Kevin, but for trying to hurt Robert, and trying to kill Anton. If he had killed Anton, I would have found a way back into the pack, and the last thing that Graham would have seen would have been me. I knew where the extra keys were to his house. We had a set in our room. I made another mental note that I needed to get to training. I had been feeling puny for a while now, and I needed to keep my strength up. I was going to enjoy the surprised look on Graham's stupid face when he realized that I was going to take his life, and that I was now much stronger than him as a vampire. I head out with Kevin and Robert to go to the afternoon training session. Raven and Stella were leading the class. She and Stella were excellent fighters. Hands down the best in the pack, but Reagan and I were no slouches out here either. The move into the new house, and the double training had me more tired than usual, but I was so happy with our new life. Anton would take me out at night so I could work on my new skills that I got with the change. My speed is incredible, as is my newfound strength. I enjoy our little night adventures, and getting to spend one-on-one time with Anton. We had split off into pairs to spar with each other, and I drew Stella. She grinned at me as she jogged over to stand next to me as we waited our turn to practice what we had learned today. Reagan and Raven were going first, and they put on an impressive show. Raven was good about pairing people up with people of similar strengths in the pack. I knew to pull my strength as I didn't want to accidentally hurt Stella. It was almost unfair to fight them now as I felt with the change, I was kind of a ringer. So many things had heightened and was so much stronger right now. The only thing different was I couldn't phase into my wolf anymore. Thankfully, I could still communicate with her, as she has been there with me for so long. I would have missed Akela if she had left me. She is always trying to tell me to slow down, to stop pushing so hard. But I want to stay a strong fighter for the pack. I want Anton to be proud of me as his mate too, especially as I continue to gain better control over my new abilities. Akela said her staying with me was a gift from the moon goddess herself. She was someone who was always there for me, and I depended on her much more than I realized. Anton and Alexei could not tell me what was going to happen to me after I became a vampire. This was uncharted territory for them too, as they couldn't tell me what my new normal was actually going to be. The only thing that we did know for a fact was that I was no longer a real werewolf anymore. I couldn't phase, but with her still inside me, my senses seemed even more heightened than Anton's were. I can smell the warriors, and the animals on the pack land much sooner than others can. My reflexes as amazingly swift. Raven and Reagan finished their sparring and stepped out of the circle, and Stella and I entered for our match. We do not spar to hurt each other. We are just going through the motions, but pulling the actual punches and kicks. We were about 5 minutes into the match, when I got a little dizzy. I didn't see it coming, and I had not had any blows to my head. I was a little concerned, but I started to control my breathing, and continued on. I was pretty sure that because I was panting, that was the reason for my dizziness. I was just out of breath. I got another few minutes in and I saw Stella stop mid-fight to ask me if I was okay, right before I passed out. Chapter 168 Cheryl's POV. I woke up looking at the ceiling in a hospital bed. I could see concerned faces all over the room looking back at me. The PAC hospital is near the training area, and it was a great idea to have it built there. I can see Raven, Reagan, Stella, Kevin, and Robert all staring at me with their fearful eyes trained on me. I went to sit up and Raven stopped me by saying, "The doctor is coming. Justin carried you here, he went to get Dr. Max right now." I laid back against the back of the bed, as I still felt a little off. I have no idea what is happening right now. I am wondering if this was because I was pushing it too hard like Akela had told me when the door suddenly opened and Anton rushed into the room and straight over to me. He was panting a little and that only happens when he pushes himself really hard. He took my hand in his and said, "What happened? Why did you pass out?" I shrugged and said, "I have been tired for a while now, even before we moved into the new house. Akela told me I was pushing myself too hard, she may be right. I just need to slow down for a minute. I just need some rest, I will be fine, don't worry," I told Anton, and I gave him a smile to show that I wasn't worried, but he was still worried. It was all over his face. He stepped back and told Kevin and Robert to stay with me, as he went into the hallway to make a call. I calmed them down too. They were both anxious and worried as well. They had already put in a call to Dr. Gurin at the Coven, as normally they would draw blood to see what was going on, but that is not going to work in this situation. I kept a brave face for my sons, who were hovering over me asking what I needed them to get for me, or do for me. I had to tell them to calm down, because their nervous behavior was starting to make me nervous. I knew that ever since I was worn down enough to escape Black Moon, I had never gotten fully back to my old self. I knew that years of abuse had taken its toll on me. I just wanted to be back to my old strong self. I knew as long as I didn't give up, I would get there one day. Justin had slipped back into the room after Anton went into the hallway. Due to their limited knowledge of vampires, they were all really waiting on Dr. Gurin to arrive to help shed some light on this. I felt better, the dizziness had passed and I was actually embarrassed at all the attention, and ready to go home and rest. I didn't want to stay here, but Anton had come back into the room and said, "Alexei and Dr. Gurin are on their way here. You will be fine, my love. Nothing to worry about." He seemed calmer now and less worried now that he knew they were coming. I nodded at him and said, "I am fine, I feel better now anyway. We can just go home to let me rest, and they can just come there to check on me. I don't want to stay here when I just overexerted myself." I was sparring with Stella and she is a powerhouse. I got a few light laughs from the group, as everyone knew that I was just trying to lighten the mood. I could tell that they were all still really worried about me. I don't want people fussing over me, there is no need. I just need to get more sleep, and I will be fine. I do not sense that there is a problem, I have just been working too hard. I need to take a day or two off. Brandon showed up with Alexei and Dr. Gurin, and I saw two warriors now stationed in the hallway. I doubt that I was under the threat of attack right now. With some of the strongest members of the pack here in the room with me, I was as safe as I could be. Alexei came over to put his hand on Anton's shoulder to help calm him. We could both tell that he was incredibly worried about me. Dr. Gurin got straight to work and kicked everyone out into the waiting room while he checked me over with Dr. Max. I appreciated that Max was willing to learn about vampires to be able to treat us if the time ever came, at least to buy his time for Dr. Gurin to get here. They checked me out, including drawing some venom, and having me pee in a cup. They left to go wait for the lab results to come back, and then let everyone come back into my room. There were more people now, as Clive, Beta Truette, and my brother, Leander, were now here too. Robert and Kevin had been sent to the dining room to eat with their friends and cousins to try to keep their minds off of what happened. I felt better and had even gotten up earlier with no problem, to go use the bathroom. I was positive that I would be going home very soon. About 40 minutes later, the door opens and Dr. Gurin and Dr. Max entered with a laptop on a rolling cart and a few different sized paddles resting in the slots on the side. I felt Anton's hand tighten on mine, and I murmured to him, "It is fine, Anton, I am fine." Alexei is looking at Dr. Gurin, and after about a minute of them looking intensely at each other, Alexei's eyes snapped to me. "What is going on here? Is there a serious problem? Did I just give Anton false hope? Well, I am sorry ladies and gentlemen, but I am going to have to ask you all to exit the room, one more time. We need to check a few more things out, and Cheryl will need some privacy for it. She and Anton will let you know the results very soon. Do not worry. I believe that we have this well in hand, and she will be fine. I can guarantee it," Dr. Gurin said to them as Raven and Stella came over to hug me on the way out. Reagan stopped and squeezed my hand and said, "Everything is going to be just fine, Cheryl." I have to admit that I am less optimistic right now than I was 5 minutes ago. Anton grabbed Alexei's hand as he passed him to exit and looked at me to see if I was okay with Alexei staying. I know he needs his brother right now, so as long as there is no real invasive or exposing things done, I am good with him staying with us. I nodded at Anton and Alexei steps back in place to stand behind Anton again. "Okay, so we don't know what is wrong, but we suspect what is wrong with you. We have discussed everything else, and we know for a fact that it isn't any of the other suspected issues. When that happens, it leaves only one answer, then that answer, however far-fetched, is the correct answer. So I am going to need you to pull your tank top up for us. We need to see what is going on inside," Dr. Gurin told me, and I was stunned. They don't know, they can only suspect. Is this how things are going to be from now on, guessing? I pulled my shirt up and Dr. Max stepped forward pulling the cart with him, and pulled out a bottle of ultrasound gel. I have no idea what he is going to be doing, but I can feel Anton tensing up as Max got nearer to me, and I knew I needed to say something as Anton was already worried. Max touching me might very well push him over the edge. Before I can open my mouth, I heard Alexei say in a smooth tone, "Perhaps you would do the honors, Dr. Gurin." I let go of the breath I was holding and Dr. Gurin smoothly stepped in front of Dr. Max to motion to me to pull the waistband of my leggings down. How far do you need them down?" I asked Dr. Gurin, looking at my flat stomach. I am now sorry I let Alexei stay in here. I have never had any of this done before, and I have no idea what they are looking for right now. Just a little bit. I just don't know how much we will need to look around to see what we think might be the problem. Dr. Gurin was cryptic with his reply. I let go of Anton's hand and slid them down about 2 inches and the cold gel was applied. I know I have a frown on my face now. So many issues and diseases that it could be. I am worried myself now and reached out to take comfort from Anton again. He is just as worried as I am, but the doctors and Alexei just seemed to be focused on the screen as they looked around, pressing the paddle all around my stomach. I can't even tell what they are looking for, and I am worried as I haven't been a vampire for that long. I haven't asked if they are prone to any sickness or diseases yet. Werewolves are for the most part very healthy, and it is rare for us to get sick, like really sick. I should have asked, what if what is wrong with me might kill me? I can feel the fear taking grip of me, and I couldn't stop the whimper of fear that escaped me. Anton was nervous and upset as I was, and finally let his thoughts ring out in the room. What is wrong with her? I demand that you tell me right now. He was upset, the same as I was, but the other three are now smiling at the screen. I cannot believe it, Alexei. If I wasn't looking at it with my own eyes, I would have never have believed it, if someone told me this. The goddess and Maka must have done this. They have been blessed, Dr. Gurin said while staring at the screen. Cannot believe what? I said loudly, because I was close to snapping on them if they don't tell me what is going on right now. You are pregnant, Cheryl. It is almost unheard of something like this happening in our kind. Our mother bore us, but she had royal blood. But you will be having a baby, Cheryl. This is usually reserved for royal descendants, or extremely powerful vampires. Congratulations, brother. I have to say that I am happy for you, and a little jealous too, Alexei said, and I looked over at the screen myself, as I am still in disbelief. Actually, she will be having twins, Alexei. I can see two in there. From the size of them, I would say that she got pregnant while she was still a werewolf. These babies are advancing at an increased rate than a pure vampire baby, Dr. Gurin said, and I was stunned. How in the heck is that possible? Anton said he was accepting my sons as his, as it was basically impossible for a pregnancy to occur between us. Neither of us expected this kind of news today. We never took precautions as we didn't think we needed to. I looked at Anton's face and he was staring transfixed at the screen. He was happy to hear what they said, but he is still clearly in shock. He had always wanted a baby, but he had given up hope. Alexei was just as happy as Anton was, because this gave him hope too, hope that one day he would be having a baby to carry on his line too. I saw the tears fall from Anton's eyes as he got up from his chair and leaned over to give me a kiss. I am still a little stunned at this change of events. I did not expect it, plus my stomach is still flat. How could I possibly be pregnant with twins? I have been a vampire for 7 months. How could I not have known? I felt nothing at all, not the first sign of being pregnant. Today's dizziness was the first clue for me. That is not true. I told you to slow down, to stop putting so much pressure on yourself. I told you that with all 4 of your pregnancies, Akela said, and she was very happy. How am I not showing yet at 7 months? I have just been a little tired, the dizziness today was the only real sign. How could I have known? I asked them. I am absolutely positive that you must have been pregnant from when you were a she-wolf. Normal vampire pregnancies are usually a little over 2 years. We don't progress quite as fast as werewolf pups do. I delivered both Alexei and Anton, their mother was a royal, and she carried them for about 25 months each. I can't say for sure, but it looks to me like you are around at the halfway mark with your pregnancy. I believe that at around the 14th to the 16th month mark, we will have new members in our coven. We are going to have to monitor you, and keep an eye out for any problems, but they look just perfect to me right now. I am sorry that I cannot give you a more definite time frame. This is a first for our kind, and we are in unknown territory. I will have to get my notes as I will need to compare this to my other documented pregnancies. I will also keep track of yours very carefully too, as this is a new and exciting change to our species. I would slow down on any vigorous training for now. Don't overextend or overtax yourself. You need to take care of the babies. Dr. Gurin said to me. It is amazing that she didn't lose them when she was turned. I feel guilty for us not checking her when we did it now. But clearly the goddess and Maka have plans for these babies. They protected them through all the changes that she went through. We all know how difficult it is for us to get pregnant, let alone get turned while pregnant. I am stunned, but so happy to hear this. I know our father sired several half-bloods with humans. I believe that these babies will indeed be very special. I am so happy for you and Cheryl, Alexei said as he squeezed Anton's shoulder. We could all hear the wistfulness in his voice. He wants to have some babies too, and my heart breaks for him. I hope when he does find his mate, that she can provide him with his own children too. You can stay with us, at our home to help keep an eye on Cheryl. Dr. Gurin, Alexei already has his own room. Do we need to schedule weekly visits? Does she need a special diet? What do I need to do? Anton fires off question after question to the doctors. I need to know too. I need to make sure that what I am doing is the best for them. I need to tell Robert and Kevin that they are about to become big brothers again. I am getting over my surprise, and getting excited about being able to give Anton something that he has always wanted, but thought that he could never have. I am so happy, and Anton wraps his arms around me to thank me in my ear and then starts promising me quite a nice reward for making him a father. I blushed because I know that they all heard what he just whispered in my ear, and although I am fully on board with what he suggested, I could have waited until we got home to have heard about it. Which reminds me, I need to ask, even though I really don't want to. So, is it safe for us to still have sex? I don't want to do anything that would put them in jeopardy, I asked them with my face flushing even redder at my question. I am still feeling so guilty to the babies about not even considering that I could be pregnant when I was changed. I will make sure that from now on, I will make sure that I protect them as best I can. I mean, it was within less than a week of us starting to have sex. We were completely different species. We just didn't even consider the fact that I could possibly even get pregnant. Dr. Gurin smiled at us, and said, yes, S*X is still fine. I really think that you will be fine for the duration of the whole pregnancy. You just need to do what you normally do, just less forcefully than you normally do it. I will call Anton with a schedule for you on when I will be here to check on you. Your fluids looked fine, we didn't see any problems at all in your venom, or urine. I will send you an email for your diet. The babies will need extra iron, as you and they won't have blood, like your other pups had. I just happened to remember Antonina passing out when she was in the middle of a battle, and had to be rescued before she was hurt. That was how we found out that she was pregnant with Alexei. It had been so long ago, that I had forgot. I happen to know that you are a very strong woman. You showed us that, on the day you were turned. I am so happy to see the legacy continuing for the boys, it gives us all hope for the future. He left that sentence hanging as it went without saying that the vampire numbers were dwindling. Mostly from people just assuming that any vampire was a bad vampire, which is not the case. Just like with any species, there are good and bad in it. Unfortunately, you do not know whether they are bad, until it is too late. So, some just hunted all vampire down, to kill off when they found them. I worried about them, and their coven, and I wanted to suggest that the safety of the wall be extended to where their coven could be made secure too. I know that they were going to be coming here to fight along with us, but they needed to secure their coven and their land. I have been meaning to mention it for a while now, but with everything going on, and there being no trouble right now, I kept forgetting. Since Alexei was here now, I was going to mention it to him while it was still fresh in my mind. He looked a little surprised at my suggestion, but when I reminded him that Graham was coming to us, and it might be best for his, and the whole coven's safety, he nodded thoughtfully. That is a good idea, as we could actually get here faster in case of emergency by just running straight over here. I will speak to Brandon about it. We would need to see how he feels about putting some openings between our land for our people to slip through. My new sister-in-law already cares so much about us, and our well-being. We appreciate you too. I am looking forward to having you come to the coven to meet all of our members. They were already looking forward to meeting you. With this pregnancy being announced, they will all be ecstatic, Alexei told us. I do not mind them being told about the pregnancy. I just wanted to tell our children first before anyone else here in the pack found out. I mind-linked Kevin to bring Robert and for them to come back to my room. I wanted to tell them both first. I also told him to tell Raven to give them a 5-minute head start before they came back into my room. I did tell him that I was going to be fine, and that it wasn't serious. That way he could relay it to the group in the waiting room too. Dr. Max took out the machine, and he and Dr. Gurin both exited the room. I could not stop smiling now, and when I glanced up at Anton, he had a huge grin on his face too. I guess he was given a heads up by his god too. It was just like the goddess does for us. I had thought that 6 bedrooms in the house was way too many, with only 4 rooms really taken. It seems like the house was absolutely perfect for us now. I reached down, and ran my hand across my stomach. I am very happy as I always wanted more children, but Blake had insisted that I get on birth control as our family was perfect with 4 pups. I never knew if Blake said that because he actually thought that our family was perfect, or if it was the start of Graham's plan. I always suspected that it was because Blake was being petty. A lot of werewolf couples have a large family. I had felt like he was punishing me for whatever reason at the time, but didn't know who was behind it until years later. I am so happy at getting this opportunity. My babies are still so little. I am not showing at all, so I never suspected that we would be getting blessed by the gods themselves. Anton is enthralled with the knowledge that he is going to be a father, of children that I am praying will look just like him. I see his hand reach out toward my stomach, and hesitate. I know he thinks he could hurt them, but look at what they have already survived. I took his hand in mine and guided it right to where they had the paddle earlier, over our unexpected gifts. I see the wonder on his face, as he feels like it is real now. Like he can somehow sense them in there with his hand placed on my stomach. I see the tears in his eyes as he lowered his head to give me a kiss as our hands stayed on my stomach. What a blessing indeed that we have. My excitement grows as I can't wait for the door to open, so we can tell the boys that our family is growing. Or if you want to pay for more such audiobooks, you can send us a request in a private Facebook group, or join us on WhatsApp. A link is given in the video description. The audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.